Mateusz Kawecki was a 30-year-old Polish construction worker who worked in Hanover, Germany, and lived with his father, who was also a construction worker. He lived in a small village in southeastern Poland called Hubków, around 400 miles away from Lipia Góra, where his long-distance Polish fiancé resided. She was pregnant and was extremely close to giving birth to their first child. So on March 28, 2018, around 11:30 p.m., Mateusz hopped into his BMW and left his house, beginning his long 400-mile journey to meet his fiancée. He never arrived. Mateusz's father would go on record saying he called his son around 10:30 a.m. on March 29th. Mateusz claimed there was heavy traffic and many traffic jams, saying he was stuck in Szczecin, a town on the Polish-Germany border. This would put Mateusz around 133 miles away from his destination in Lipia Góra. Unfortunately, the German-Polish border wasn't staffed and there were no passport checks going on. However, there were license plate recognition cameras. Around this time, Mateusz had sent text messages to his fiancée letting her know he was still around 2 hours away. After hours go by and several unanswered phone calls, his fiancée becomes worried. She gets in contact with Mateusz's sister, who also lives in Hanover. Mateusz's mother then heads to the police and tries filing a report before they tell her it's too early to do so, and encourage her to wait longer, believing he will show up. Zero evidence of Mateusz's whereabouts surface, and the family finally reports him missing in April to both the Polish and German police. The German police refused to investigate because they believed the Polish authorities were handling the case. Mateusz's family urged the Polish detectives to track down his cell phone, which had been on for a couple of days after his disappearance. However, because he had a German SIM card, the Polish authorities couldn't locate it, and if that wasn't unbelievable enough, the German police couldn't find his phone either because Mateusz disappeared in Poland. Polish police went on to claim that Mateusz's cell phone never connected to a Polish network, and it's unclear where he was when he received the call from his father on the morning of March 29th. What's strange is that Mateusz's sister mentioned the investigators claimed he never crossed the border, as CCTV cameras at the border crossing never captured him entering Poland in the first place. Frustrated and at their wits' end, the family began their own investigation, tracking his route, checking side roads, gas station surveillance, and leaving photos of Mateusz in markets and towns. The family appeared on several Polish and German TV shows condemning the police efforts. Fast forward to September 12, 2018, when a neighbor of Mateusz's mother's house in Hubków asked about a horrible stench emanating from their barn. The neighbor asked if they could search the barn, thinking it was a dead animal who had been trapped. With half of the barn being walled off, the neighbor climbed a ladder to the attic portion and immediately noticed a pair of clothes. On further inspection, a heavily decomposed body composed of a severed head and torso was discovered. They couldn't identify the body at first glance. The area around the body turned up 2 rope nooses hanging from the roof, as well as a backpack on the floor, which was later found to belong to Mateusz. Several of Mateusz's teeth were knocked out of his mouth and stuck to his clothing with what seemed to be blood, and blood patches were found on his clothes. His backpack contained a Polish water bottle, cigarette butts, and an orange juice box. His family would go on to say that Mateusz never drank orange juice because he hated it. A cell phone found in the backpack showed a call to his uncle on March 30th, but seemed to be an accidental dial because it only lasted for a second and never fully went through. DNA analysis confirmed the body was in fact Mateusz. No other DNA was found on any of the belongings found with his body. The investigators and public prosecutor claim his death was a suicide and refused to further investigate despite appeals and efforts from the family. Authorities believe Mateusz had planned his death beforehand, stating there was no evidence to conclude otherwise. The pieces of evidence that the police used to come to this determination were never released to the public. Only 4 days after his body was found, the family had searched the barn and found Mateusz's shoe along with his detached foot still inside. This angered the family because it showed that the police didn't bother to properly search the barn. Prosecutors gathered DNA, expert reports, and analysis from Mateusz's phone. German police acquired security camera footage and searched Mateusz's apartment in Hanover. All of the evidence was then sent and analyzed by experts. Based on the evidence, Prosecutors claim Mateusz had lied to his family on the day he disappeared. He had not been in Stettin when he had spoke to his father, and wasn't even driving at the time. He was still in Germany according to the receipts found with his belongings. According to prosecutors, Mateusz took a train to the border town of Frankfurt an Oder, and then most likely walked to the Polish town of Słabisz, almost 24 hours after informing his family he was already in Poland. Mateusz then checked into a hotel in Słabisz with another unknown person. The next day, he took a train to Warsaw and then a bus to Zamość, which is the largest town near his home village, Pawków, which was only 18 miles away. At around midnight, Mateusz arrived in Zamość, but it's unknown how or when he got back to Pawków. Despite large searches in both Poland and Germany, Mateusz's car was never found. No evidence of his car being transferred to a new owner or the keys to his BMW were found, though his wallet was found inside his backpack. The attic in the barn where Mateusz's body was found could clearly be seen from the ground, and the family claimed to use this barn frequently, saying they would have noticed a body hanging from the ceiling, let alone the smell of a rotting corpse. Members of the family state the barn door usually stayed open, and refute the prosecutor's claims that Mateusz's body hanged from the attic at any time. Mateusz's sister accused the officers who searched the barn of negligence, as they refused to fully cover the entire area because sifting through the hay would take too long. An internal police investigation was conducted, and the two officers were reprimanded. After all of the current evidence given to the public, these questions still remain. Who did Mateusz meet in Słabisz? How could the family frequent the barn without noticing Mateusz's body? Where is Mateusz's BMW? I'll see you on the other side.